What's up, heathens? How ya doing? Today we're going to be looking at another question that supposedly atheists just cannot answer. It's amazing how all these apologists have these questions that we supposedly can't answer. I doubt this is going to be an actual question, but more just pointless rhetoric.
When we look at the universe, we are seeing that millions of living organisms are dying. Millions of wastes are cleaned by an invisible hand. The poles, where dirt should be the most visible, looks very clean because not many people live there. Who does this cleaning?
Well, obviously the answer's Mr. Clean. If you're interested in this Islamic attempt to prove God by using Mr. Clean, then please stay tuned. Now, every religion and every apologist for their own respective religion have some kind of question that supposedly atheists can't answer. Islam's no different, but this guy thinks he has us beat with his Mr. Clean argument. Let's see how he gets there.
Nietzsche was a representative of nihilism, and he produced many works in 19th and 20th centuries. Nihilism is the philosophical view that rejects every existing thing, every truth, and every ideology. Nietzsche, one of those who adopted this view, came up with a ridiculous idea that didn't fit his knowledge: God is dead.
Now, I personally don't adopt the nihilistic view of reality, but there are plenty of atheists out there that do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what Nietzsche meant by his statement, God is dead, is that the Enlightenment period had eliminated any kind of possibility for God to exist. Of course, not everything that happened in the Enlightenment period was awesome, but what he's referencing here is the blossoming of scientific knowledge during that time. I don't think that the possibility of God has been totally negated by science, but I can see how it would seem that way at the time. Things that were once considered supernatural have now been explained by natural processes. We were beginning to figure out how reality actually works without just attributing it to God. While I understand why Nietzsche would have felt this way, I don't think that science necessarily rules out the possibility of God. More specifically, a deistic God, which is a product of the Enlightenment period.
The philosophical way of thinking is that we don't need God because science already explains everything. In this video, we will refute this ridiculous statement.
Science never claims to have all of the answers? Last time I checked, that was religion. Religion claims to have all of the answers in their handy-dandy rule books. You see, the scientific process understands that humans can be wrong, and therefore there's a rigorous method that the ideas are put through in order to verify that they represent reality. The scientific method has a self-correcting mechanism that's built into it for those particular situations where we are wrong. Religion doesn't have anything like that. In fact, whole wars and millions of people are killed over the disagreements between religious doctrine. You not only see one religion fighting another religion, but also internally to a single religion, you have infighting there as well. In America today, you see a great divide in the Christian community itself. You have conservative Christians on one hand that are young earth creationists that literally believe the Bible and everything like that. Then you have the more progressive side of Christianity that, doesn't try to explain scientific questions with the Bible. So we have this theological battle as well. But all in all, God is defined as a supernatural entity that exists outside of reality. While Cameron, over at Capturing Christianity, doesn't understand what is meant by the natural world, most people understand that the reality that we experience is considered the natural world. Whole arguments are developed with God existing outside of this reality, or the natural world, in order to have the effect that he does on it. That would be creating it in general, as well as violating the natural laws in order to impose his will upon that reality. And you see, science can only describe what we experience in this natural world. So I don't think that science will ever be able to prove or disprove the existence of a god or gods. What it can do, though, is disprove specific definitions of God, like the Islamic definition, the Christian definition, the Jewish definition, or even the Hindu definition of what God is, thus making those particular definitions of God dead.
What happens if you don't clean a room for a week? How about a few months or a year? If you don't clean a room for a long time, it gets very dirty, right?
Okay, where are you going with this? Yeah, if you don't clean stuff, stuff will get dirty. So what?
What color is really best for showing dirt? Of course, white. When we look at the universe, we are seeing that millions of living organisms are dying. Millions of wastes are cleaned by an invisible hand. The poles, where dirt should be the most visible, looks very clean because not many people live there. Who does this cleaning?
I'm going to sound pretty pedantic when I ask this question, but what does it mean to be clean? I mean, sure, if you don't clean your room, it gets filthy. But what does it mean for a forest to be dirty? Or for the Antarctic to be clean? See, it's all very subjective because you're imposing your own particular view on what it means to be clean or be dirty. If you mean by clean, that means that there's no microorganisms or bacteria or anything like that in, whatever place you're examining, then nothing is ever clean. If by clean you mean that the Antarctic is in its natural state, then there's nobody that needs to be there to clean or do anything for it to remain in its natural state. There's dirt, germs, and animals that live in the Antarctic. I mean, do you think that there's somebody that's down there that goes around cleaning up penguin shit all the time? Or to clean up the carcasses that polar bears leave behind after they get done eating? The Antarctic isn't clean by our standards, so I don't know what you mean when you ask who does the cleaning.
Imagine a brush. There is no hand holding this brush, but there is someone who mows the brush and who knows how to clean the room.
Oh, that would just be an OCD-afflicted ghost that is pissed off that its current occupants of wherever it's residing didn't clean everything with the left hand 10 times, and then also didn't clean everything with the right hand 10 times. Hey, do you think that's why the lights flicker in these ghosty things? Like, the OCD ghosts are just sitting there yelling like, God damn it, Brian! You didn't flick the lights 15 times before you left the fucking room, so now I gotta fucking do it. The insinuation that he's making here, of course, is that God is cleaning the natural world, or God is responsible for keeping the natural world in its natural state. But all this boils down to the fact that if we have a natural explanation for something, then we don't need a supernatural or a God explanation in order to explain why it happens. Microorganisms like bacteria, as well as plants, fungi, and even other animals, clean up the dead organic matter that eventually comes to exist in the natural world. You see, the microorganisms would break down this dead organic matter into more simple molecules. And these molecules would benefit the areas surrounding wherever that particular dead organic matter is. So, my question is, does God control these microorganisms? I mean, why conflate your God with the natural order of the universe like this? I mean, you're just ad hoc inserting God into the explanation that doesn't need further explanation. So this explanation that you're giving, that God is the cause for all of these natural things to happen, is really not needed.
Yes, dear Nietzsche, he put forward the most ridiculous argument throughout human history by saying that God is not active. If there is cleaning activity from first human to the present, there should be someone who is permanent and active. We call him as Al-Quddus, Allah, the most pure, the all-perfect.
And you see here, you're jumping from your argument of who cleans this place up to a specific definition of a God. And that would be the Islamic definition of God. God is not Mr. Clean. If you conflate the natural order of reality with your God, then you have effectively negated the need for your God to be in the explanation. We have sufficiently proven that if you have a natural explanation for some phenomena, like, organic decay, then you don't need a God for that explanation.
In addition, scientists discovered many biological and physical and chemical theories and laws, like law of gravity and law of mass and buoyancy of water. All of these laws could be formed through an explosion.
Science doesn't say that these laws were formed during the explosion. Scientific laws are descriptions of what we observe in reality. And the natural phenomena that the laws describe weren't formed in an explosion either. They are just a natural consequence of the reality that we live in. Also, the Big Bang wasn't an explosion like they always describe it. In fact, there was no light in the universe for 380,000 years after the Big Bang occurred. Prior to that, the universe was simply just too hot for light to even exist. What we know now as the Big Bang is the rapid expansion of the universe that happened after the first 10 to the negative 37 seconds of the existence of the universe.
If there is an order in everything, then there has to be somebody who puts everything in order. If there is constant order is observed, it means whoever is doing that is non-stop in action. If he wasn't active, the laws would lose their function.
Citation needed? Because there's no evidence whatsoever that this is a factual statement. He's literally pulling God from the gap in his ass cheeks. Prior to the invention of a god, everything that existed in the natural world just existed, naturally. Also, this puts you in a very bad position because then God would control all of the bad things that happen to us as well. Like genetic diseases and natural disasters, all of that would have been caused by God. Oh, that's right. That's our fault. Mainly because that's what happens to a person in an abusive relationship. God has to convince us that it's our fault that this bad stuff is happening to us, because that's exactly what happens in an abusive relationship between the abused and their abuser.
Also, as you know, laws are useless without someone to enforce them. For example, if you see in front of you the sign "No Smoking," you'll know that the sign can't give you a punishment. Only law enforcement will give punishments.
What? No smoking signs and laws enforced by the police are completely different than scientific laws. This analogy makes no sense. Simply put, God is not needed for natural phenomena to happen.
Just like how the signs stay functionless and inert without any enforcer, all laws in this universe will stay functionless if there is no one to enforce it.
Again, what? Citation needed? Yet again? I mean, this argument has just become nonsensical.
If the gravitation is always active, it's because of the power of an active being who is constantly enforcing it. He, Al-Qayyum, ever-living, is Allah. Bediüzzaman says, lift up your head, look at the miraculous work of the most active and powerful being. All these things are done on purpose, just the same way you are created with purpose. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
And finally, for a third time, citation needed. Nothing that you have said here has proven that God is needed for natural phenomena to happen. You just state without sufficient reason that God is the one that enforces like the law of gravity, or the other various scientific laws. I don't understand why religious apologists think that this kind of argumentation is convincing. Honestly, I'm more convinced that ghosts just have OCD, clean everything up 20 or 30 times, and flick the lights on and off. In conclusion, this guy basically thinks that Allah is Mr. Clean that buffs and cleans everything with his magic sponge. He also thinks that God is the sole employee of this godly law enforcement agency that causes gravity as well as the other scientific laws we've been able to craft. He does all of this stuff without any evidence whatsoever. He just has a book that told him it was that way. Or rather, he was told by people that were told by a book or convinced by a book that it's that way. I must say, this is some rather compelling shit, am I right? Thank you, heathens, for joining us today. I would really love to hear what you think about this Mr. Clean argument down in the comments. While you're down there, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you like dipshit videos like this. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice, and I will see you heathens later.